Hello and welcome to the Next Escape podcast with your host
Calvin
and Kiara.
And today we have a very special guest, David McAllister from CleVR Escape, located in Visalia, California.
How you doing?
Howdy. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, we're doing good.
You guys sound so nice. Like
Thanks.
you've done this a million times.
We've tried a million times.
You got the radio voices.
There's a ton of different intros that probably never made it to air.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello. How are you today?
It's great. I love it.
What's next up on the next Escape podcast? Try to do that. Couldn't quite.
Try to say next as many times as you can.
Yeah, next. So David, you are the proud proprietor of CleVR Escape. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it, better than what we can, at least?
Well, we are an escape room, mostly. We have 3 live escape rooms like you would normally have. But we're called CleVR, which is spelled CLEVR, because we also have virtual reality stations as well. So the virtual reality is pretty cool because we have our stations in our front, kind of where our lobby is, and we have virtual reality games where you can rent out the stations and you can play like 100 different games if you want. But we also have exclusive virtual reality escape games made by Ubisoft, who makes games like Assassin's Creed, yep, and Prince of Persia.
Yeah, same thing. Yep.
Yeah, so very, very high level, high production company, and those games are fantastic. We have 3 of those. They're called the Lost Pyramid, Escape the Lost Pyramid, Beyond Medusa's Gate, so it's a Greek kind of themed one, and then Prince of Persia, Dagger of Time, where you get to control time.
Yeah, Dagger of Time was really fun.
Yeah, they're all a blast. I don't think that we played Medusa's.
That was my favorite.
The other 2 have been an absolute blast. Like the production quality is pretty insane for them. And they're definitely just like escape rooms, only in VR. Like I think it's pretty great.
Yeah.
It's not. And it's like we have a VR set at home. We have the HTC Vive at home. And there are escape games that we can play on there, but they pale in comparison to what Ubisoft dumped the amount of time and work hours into those games. So they are a lot of blast. And I think that you might be the only escape room VR hybrid in the Central Valley. Is that right?
I think so. There's a new VR place in Fresno or Clovis area, which is a little bit of a subject. No, I'm sure those people are fine, but they call themselves Never Escape, and we are CleVR Escape. So it's kind of like,
what you
but
yeah.
I'm sure it was either an accident or maybe they just didn't care. It's fine, and I don't. It is what it is. So I don't know if they're still open. I haven't really heard from them, but
I heard that they were coming out and then nothing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, me too.
I think
Radio
they're focusing
silence.
more on like things outside of VR too. Like I don't think escape rooms is their main thing. It was mostly just like a vector to use the VR in a different way. I think VR is definitely their main thing.
Yeah,
they do maybe like projects or something with VR.
Well,
Yeah.
you can also
Things,
learn
or-
about
I don't know.
Bitcoin and I'm sure NFTs. So
Yeah,
Okay.
take that as you will.
Seems like they're trying to be like a workspace as well, because
Yeah.
I saw some.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
projects
But
or something.
needless to say, does not seem to be as focused as CleVR is and what they kind of deliver, right?
Yeah. Well,
A good chunk of your rooms, and all of them are a blast. I think that you have some of the best puzzle design that we've seen in the Valley.
Yeah.
thanks.
David has my
Yeah.
favorite rooms in the Central Valley, besides
Yeah.
obviously Next Gen, but I don't play Next Gen games. So.
Never played.
So it's a little hard to judge your own,
Yeah, it's difficult. It's
And you guys have said many times you're your worst critic anyway, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you everything that's wrong in all of our rooms. Like,
same here.
instead, I'll keep it silent and act like they're perfect. You know?
That's why you invite me, so I can talk about all the things that are wrong with my rooms, right?
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. Yeah, take the pressure off of us for a little bit.
Yeah,
huh?
the podcast
There
should
you
just
go.
be named Everything Wrong.
all the bad things.
So David, like, what was your first like introduction into escape rooms, and like, how did you get this as a hobby, which eventually ended up opening CleVR?
Yeah, so I used to be I'm a math teacher. That's my actual real job. And before that, I was a technology coach where I would teach teachers how to basically implement or, integrate technology into their classroom. And I had another coach with me. We went to all the schools in our district, and she's a good friend of mine. Her name's Denise. And Denise, she went on a conference or a trip or something. I can't remember, San Francisco. This was like 5 or 6 years ago. And when she came back, she was talking about how they did something called an escape room. And I was like, what the heck is that? She described it to me. She's like, yeah, there's puzzles. You have to escape out of the room and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like everybody's like, what the heck? That sounds
talking about
weird, but kind of cool. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of nerdy. I'm not kind of nerdy. I'm very nerdy. So when I heard that, I love puzzles. So, when she was saying this, I was like, that sounds interesting, like something I would do. And then she's like, at the time, I think she said she paid $25 a person, which I was like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. And it seemed like a lot of money to me because when you don't know what you're getting yourself into, I am comparing it to a movie. And I'm like, well, that's a little bit more than a movie, but not quite. And, I didn't know. So anyway, I told Katie, my wife, about it. And I was like, hey, Denise she said it was a blast. She went to this escape room. Let's go do an escape room. And I tried to describe it to her the way it was described to me. And she immediately said, heck no, that sounds nerdy and stupid. No way I'm doing that.
Yep.
So I kind of put it on the shelf for a while. And anyway, I went down to see, I have 2 nephews that live in Fullerton. And I went down to see them. And we were in like the Chinatown area of LA. And one of them said they wanted to go do an escape room. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've been wanting to do one of those. And none of us had ever done one. And so my wife, Katie, was like, fine, if you all 3 are going to do it, I'll go with you and whatever. So she just tagged along. Yeah. And so we went to this escape room that was in this mall, and the mall was already janky. Like we had to park in the basement of the mall, and the basement was like not finished. So it looked like sketchy, to say the least.
He was like, what are you guys getting me into?
What are you guys? What did I sign up for? Is this
Yeah.
part of the escape?
Yeah, when we were parking, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to be here. And then we went upstairs to the actual mall, and the actual mall wasn't that bad. And so this place was in the mall. And anyway, we went in, and the theme was something like we were trying to break into a bank, right? It was like a bank heist type thing. And this is probably 5 years ago, maybe 5.5 years ago. And
some change, like maybe.
Yeah. And so escape rooms were brand new. In fact, at this time, I don't think there was if there was an escape room in Fresno, there was one and it had just opened, if that was the case. Or there might not have been. I don't even know. But I had never.
Was at a time before the escape rooms as we know it in the Central Valley.
Right. I know it was either there was nothing or one, because right after we did this, I'd say like within 2 weeks, I looked for an escape room around here, and I only found one, and that was Breakout Fresno at the time. So they were the only place that I saw. But anyway, back to the bank heist one. So we go in, and this place was kind of large, so it had multiple rooms in it, and it was weird. Back then, like when we did it, I was having a blast. I was having so much fun. This room, they said, it was like the hardest room. It was for they recommended 8 to 10 people, and it was 6. There was 4 of us, and then they made us join 2 strangers who were absolutely awful.
Yeah,
oh, no.
We would have done better with them, but it's okay.
What are you doing?
Yeah, they're probably listening right now. I don't even know.
Imagine.
As if. I would love for them to know about it, and then send us hate mail to escape@gmail.com.
Love it. So we go in, and they had puzzles all over the place, like an overload of puzzles, and really cool things. Even back then, they had some pretty cool. They had keypads. You had to punch in stuff. They actually had a keypad on the ceiling, and you found this rod, and you had to
oh, that's cool.
Poke upwards at the keypad to push in the numbers. They had this huge I don't know how to describe it. It looked like a kind of like a combination lock, but it had 3 layers, and you had to line up
like,
the
like disc almost.
yeah, there you go,
Yeah.
like discs, exactly, but huge, like bigger than me.
Yeah,
These
I'm thinking of, like, the
massive
door from
ones.
Skyrim.
Yes,
Yeah,
there you
right?
go.
Those things. Okay.
Yes, and you had to line them up and solve the puzzle that way. And I remember they had this big thing that just said push and it had a lever, and we would push it, nothing was happening. We pull it and push it, and because we're like, I don't know what's happening. But anyway, when we opened the first door and went into this hallway, we went around the corner into this hallway, and at the end of the hallway was like a little room, like a tiny room. I'd say like a 3 foot by 3 foot, if that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so we found out that when you go into that little room, and it was just open, like there was no door, it was just open room. Well, that push thing pushed the entire room into the next room. I don't know if that makes any sense. Almost like like a sideways elevator, kind of.
Yeah.
Like if you can imagine an elevator on
horizontal elevator.
Correct. Yes. So somebody had to stay behind and push, and then it pushed all of us into the next room. And then we had to go to the other side, push it back so that person could come through, and it was pretty cool. They had like lasers on the ground that like anytime you hit them, an alarm would go off, and you'd have to. It was super annoying.
I'm kind of jealous that was your first room.
That was my first room, and I was like,
Right.
holy moly, this
That's
is crazy.
stage.
I mean, I was gonna ask, like, when was the first like aha moment of like you finally got what like escape rooms were, and like you were ready for it? But it sounds like almost from the get go, you guys were having a blast.
Oh man, it was great, and there was a fourth room, and which was the end of the game, and I remember the two people were trying to solve the last puzzle, and we were just kind of watching them, and I had an idea of what to do, but I didn't say anything because they were already I didn't want to interrupt them. And after they failed miserably, I was like, okay, I think they're trying to get at this, and I was totally right. And I remember it's a directional lock, and it was the last thing, and you had to like kind of transcribe these like, I don't know, they were, yeah, it was like a reference puzzle. So you had to look at these stars, right, that made a constellation, and then find the constellation in this picture and figure out where it's pointing to, and then put it into the directional lock.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, we were in the middle of doing that, and then our time ran out.
Oh.
And then they came in, I was like, what, were we on the right track? They're like, you're totally doing it fine. And at the time they were like, they would not let you finish if you.
Hard.
I'm like, we need like 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So that was one of our fails, but it was a lot of fun. And I remember immediately after, my wife, who was so against escape rooms, turned to me and was like, let's do another one.
Yeah, there
Nice.
you go.
And I was like, we don't have time, but we will do another one, I promise, at some point.
So, I know before you owned CleVR, you were doing like mobile boxes. So what
Right.
happened to the point where you were like, I'm not doing a business, to the point where you're like, I'm going to do a business? What
Like,
was
yeah,
that
what was the
transition?
trigger, and what was that transition like?
Yeah, so we had done, after that one, we did a bunch of Fresno and Bakersfield, that Puzzle Effect, which had a different name at the time. And we went to break. Our second one was the one that was your first one.
Mm-hmm.
Bunker.
Yeah, which is funny because I heard your podcast, and you guys were kind of down on it, and I loved that. That was one of my favorite ones ever, which is hilarious. It's just funny how different perspectives,
Different tastes and preferences.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, my big thing, like the most important thing about an escape room to me, what makes it fun is the puzzles. And I know that escape room that you guys were talking about, the aesthetic of the room was crappy, and well, not. Let's just say subpar. I guess it's not there anymore. We can talk about it.
Yeah, or you can say whatever you want, right?
But the thing is, I liked it a lot because the puzzles were really cool. I thought they were great, and we had a blast when we did it. So just different. It's cool that different people value it, different things in an escape room.
Like I definitely think that you value the puzzles most in your game designs, and I definitely think
Absolutely.
that reflects in your rooms themselves. I think overall we are more, I don't know, ambiguous. Like we try to focus on the experience, whatever that means, not necessarily just focusing on
Like
one.
store.
Yeah, I would say yours is story. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
especially in King's Keep
Mm-hmm.
and Clancy's Lodge, and actually, you know what? I just played your new one.
Yeah.
And it was funny because every time we play yours, we like talk about, the story and the whole experience and everything. And we always have a blast, by the way. You guys do an amazing job. I love your rooms.
Thank you.
They're
Thanks
great.
for telling us that on our show. That really
Pandering.
makes us look good,
Yes.
Same
No, but seriously, yours is probably my favorite place to go, and in Fresno at least, in that area. But yeah, we had a blast. We just played your new room, Cerebral. Thank you. And it was just a ton of fun. And I love that you guys did something like totally different, which is cool.
We're
And
trying to. We always try to up the ante one way or another, right?
yeah, and I have the same kind of. I think that's why I like your rooms, because I have the same kind of attitude. I want to do something different that I've never seen before all the time. And so, yeah, I can totally tell that's kind of what you guys do too. But what was funny, even though we had a fantastic time, we were talking afterwards about the puzzles, and we really liked, how things kind of went, and then we're like, wait, what were we? Somebody was asking us, me and Katie, like, what was the theme of the room? And we're like, I don't really know the story actually, because your other ones had were
a
more
lot more of a story.
Yeah, it was more like story driven and like Kingskip. We played, gosh, when you first opened it, I remember even now you're like traveling minstrels or something like that, and you got thrown in prison, and you were trying to escape, like show that you were or escape, right?
Yeah, escape and to prove your innocence.
Escape out of prison, prove your innocence. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, and you prove your innocence through the story. But yeah, definitely Cerebral doesn't have as many story beats. It's bit difficult just for the mere fact that it's kind of similar to Saw. It's basically get out so you don't get tortured.
So I do know there's
hey, there's somebody bad here and we gotta go. I tried to hide the story beats.
That's pretty much what I was telling you.
I tried to hide them as much as I could almost, to the point where I think that a lot of people are kind of going over them and not seeing the details.
Yeah.
And we kind of do that on purpose because
I was going to say,
this room was definitely for enthusiasts, and I hear a lot of the time, especially people on this phone call, saying that they don't like to read. And I try to take that feedback and run with it. So for Cerebral,
that's great.
Didn't see the story necessarily, like the behind the scenes story. It does not necessarily what you guys were doing, but the world around the players and the world around the characters in there. It's there. Yeah. It's not as apparent as the other ones, and I think that is something that we want to go back to and maybe revisit.
Well, it was super fun.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, it was great.
You guys liked it. That room damn near broke us. But I'm glad we're on the other side of it. We can talk about it with a smile.
Oh, that's awesome.
So just to go back a little bit. So you played the room down in Fullerton. Which is crazy. Like, it's such a small world. I keep on hearing people from Fullerton all the time. We have friends down there. We vacation in Fullerton, if you will, which is pretty cray-cray. But so you played the room in Fullerton, and then Katie wants to play a room right after that.
Yes. She got into it.
So what kind of happens between then and then you launch your escape boxes?
Yeah, well, after our second room, the one that you guys did also, I was telling Katie, like, I could totally make this. I could totally build these. Like, I love puzzles. I have a master's degree in mathematics. That's just my personality, and that's what I'm all about. And I was like, man, I could totally do this. So, I built one for a classroom. And it was a mobile one where you're trying to open, instead of being in a room and trying to escape the room or, whatever objective it is, the objective is to break into a box. And so I would have this box locked up with all these locks, and you'd have to solve puzzles that are hidden all over the place in order to break into the box. So same idea, you're solving puzzles, obviously not as immersive as an escape room, but way, way, way cheaper.
Yep.
That's for sure.
On a classroom budget, that's pretty good that you were able to pull that off, right?
Yeah. And anyway, I got into it. I started making more and more games, and then people were finding out about it, and so several churches and like camps and like real estate teams would reach out to me and ask me, like, can you do a team building thing? And so heck yeah, sure, why not? So I'd go for like an hour or two, do the escape room with their team, and they paid me like $500, and I'm like, what the crap? This is legit.
Do you mind if I
You know?
ask, like, how did they hear about you?
That's a great question.
Are you a popular guy? Is that what it is? Is that the secret sauce that we're missing?
Being in education did definitely help. I have a lot of connections that I wouldn't have otherwise. So a lot of it was word of mouth, but then people would, as soon as I did one, they'd post it all over the social media, and then other people would find out about it. Especially with real estate teams, I don't know why, but they loved doing escape room boxing. They always paid me a ton of money too.
Nice.
Which I think is crazy.
Tip for owners is target real estate.
That's a tip I'm gonna try to implement next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for that freebie.
The big three was I went to 3 different church camps, and one of them was about 50 people, and then the other 2 were over 120 people.
Oh.
And the 2 that were over 120, they were all men, that are similar to me, and they all have jobs pretty much. And so when they played it, they all loved it, and then they would, I would get.
And that's 120 players talking. 240.
Yeah.
Off of these 2 days, or what? That'd be almost 300 people. 290.
And everybody would want to talk to me afterwards because they want to.
It's a cool thing.
That was cool. I loved how this happened, and then they're like, hey, you should come to our place and do it. You should come to our place and do it. And then it kind of snowballed. And I always would tell Katie, like, I feel like we should just open up our own place. But I'm a teacher. We have kids. There's no way I can like take the time to do that and run it well. And she's like, yeah, I'm not letting you do that. And then I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, totally
fair.
Yeah, totally fair. More than fair. And actually looking back after opening, I'm like, that was way more than fair because, building rooms is not easy.
Yep.
At all.
Building good rooms is not easy.
And building a business in general is not easy, you guys know. So anyway, it kind of all culminated into this big event that I had this idea of. I was doing a fundraiser. I was just going to start a fundraiser from scratch with an escape room and dinner, because I was going with this team to build houses in Mexico for homeless people, and in this village where people like literally just they only have tents. They have like cardboard, and anyway, so I was going to go down there to help build the house, and I was trying to do some fundraising. So my idea was to get like 10 people, do like a spaghetti dinner and an escape room, and charge like $30 a person. And that'd be like $300, and that'd be a good chunk, of money. Maybe we could buy a door or something. I don't know, or a couple of windows. I don't know. Yeah. So I invited my friend Chris Jolly, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this fundraiser. I know, he's one that has been down and built houses in this village." And I said, "Hey, do you want to come? And it's for, what it's for, what cause it's for." And he's like, "Not only do I want to come, I want to cook." And I was like, "Sweet, heck yeah!" And so he's like, "And we're not doing spaghetti." And I was like, "Oh, okay. What are we doing?" He's like, "We're gonna do ribeye steaks." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!
Wow.
Okay, well, if you're cooking them, I'm down with that. We're gonna have to charge more than $30."
Yeah, it's not 30 anymore.
Like, price a little.
And then he's like, he worked for he's a real estate agent, and so he works for a real high-end real estate place in not high-end. I mean, they sell all kinds of houses, but but they're really well known. That's what I'm going for. In Portugal and Visalia. And so he's like, "Hey, my boss has a huge house with this huge pool house, and I want to get her involved and see if she'll host it for us." And I'm like, "Oh crap, okay." So she's like, "Absolutely, heck yeah, let's do it." And so we decide to like kind of advertise a little bit, and she knows like a billion people, and so they're all pretty wealthy people because she's wealthy. And so this 10-person event ended up being a 40-person event.
Wow.
And then so based in her pool house, her pool house was 2 stories.
The pool
So
house.
the pool house was 2
Got it.
stories.
Just to
So-
clarify which house you were talking about. Okay.
So she's like, let's make the tickets $100. And I was like, who's gonna pay $100 for an escape room and a dinner, 40 people sign up, right? And then she has more people wanting to come. And I'm like, holy crap, like okay. So we ended up
Pressure's on
getting
now.
over 70 people. We did it over 2 days. And we had over 70 people. We raised over $10,000.
Oh, wow.
And because people not only paid, but then at the end, they would just give extra money because
Also donate.
we'd show, she had a video that she showed them at the end. But I designed this room for this particular thing. And it was like a construction theme because we're building houses.
Mhm.
So like at the end, you end up finding like a drill. Oh no, you end up finding a drill and you had to unscrew the box at the
Oh.
end. And so it's things like that. Yeah, it was all, you had to measure like the lengths of these different blocks of wood and that made a code. And it was all like
I mean, that sounds creative.
Yeah,
Low budget,
That's really
low
cool.
budget, extremely low budget,
but very scrappy and creative, which is like kind of like what we really like to see in our rooms is like, how can we make this?
Like the best experience for the least amount.
right. Biggest bang for your buck, right?
Yeah.
Well, man, at that fundraiser, so many people were saying like, you need to open up your own place. You need to open up your own place. And so I told Katie, I was like, I think it's time. Like, I think we need to do something. And she's like, you can as long as you get a partner to run it for you. And I was like, sweet. And so somebody actually approached me and asked.
Last words.
Yeah, well, we're not gonna get to that. But then anyway, somebody approached me and asked me because they had seen me do these games a couple times, and so I was like, heck yeah. And so we got a partner and went in, and then after we opened up, he ended up going in another direction, and luckily at the time we were able to buy it from him, so now it's just us. But anyway, that's how we got.
That's the
Started.
story
Man,
of Clever.
that's a cool
Yeah,
story.
That's cool.
That's really fun.
And
Yeah,
so
it kind of
what
just escalated.
rooms do you have now?
So we have our live escape rooms are one called The Downside Up. It's based on the show Stranger Things. I should say it's inspired by the show Stranger Things because there's nothing from the show really that is in the game. I mean, there's kind of like some decorative stuff that's in the game.
I think like the theming, yeah, and like not
It's more just
theming, but just the set almost like the
Yeah, it's like the 80s.
yeah
80s themed.
basement hangout room.
Dungeons and Dragons kind of feel. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You're trapped in an alternate reality, and you have to find you get transported by when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. You all touch your game pieces at the same time, and you get transported into an alternate reality. You have to find your game pieces in this alternate reality to get back to the real world, and so that's the goal of the game.
And you've
That
had
was-
one since your Tulare location.
Yes, it has changed a bit since we moved from Tulare, but it's still pretty much the same game essentially. I changed about 40% of it, I'd say,
Yeah.
roughly, I guess.
I mean, escape rooms are never done. They're
They're
just
never
a
done.
living
Yeah.
work of art that just continually changes and evolves
True.
until you will never feel 100% with them, I feel like.
Another room we have.
Unfortunately, the trial version of Zoom is ending in about 7 minutes, so we do have to wrap up this episode. So I just want to wrap up by just talking about the rooms. So you got Downside
totally.
Up.
Downside Up, and then we have The Lost Treasure of Atlantis. And then that one, you're basically your friend Chester Copperpot, which I stole from Goonies.
Yep.
Which is more just to see if people know the reference. Anyway, he's an archaeologist that goes missing, and you have to. He claims he found the where Atlantis is, the Temple of Atlantis, and so you're basically going in after him to see what happened to him, and you end up getting trapped and have to find the lost treasure of Atlantis to get out.
So I think the Atlantis has like the best, I think, set production, maybe like at least from what I remember from the walls and whatnot.
Yeah.
Sconces. Like I mean, I think that was a big step up from the original Downside Up, upside down. Excuse me.
No, I think
Downside up.
Downside up.
Yeah.
That's right. Downside up. Yep. Anyway, that I think that the first game was great because it had the augmented reality. Like you had to use the
Right.
phones. I don't know if you still have that now, but I think that was a really
Mm-mm.
cool kind of tool.
implementation of technology.
Yeah, that I hadn't seen before, and you got to use it continually throughout it. It was really cool. And then I think that with Atlantis, you really stepped it up with the set production, as well as your newest game. I think it kind of carried over from originally Atlantis, and then you kind of refined it along the way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dracula's our newest game. It's called Dracula's Demise.
Bingo.
And I think the set in Dracula is even better than Atlantis. Maybe you don't get the wow factor like right away, but especially the second room, I hired an artist and she just went to town in there. It looks incredible. I also, by the way, her name's Taylor Kruger, so shout out to Taylor. She was absolutely phenomenal. And that's, what's funny is like, we all have kind of like our weak things and our things we're good at, things that we're not good at. And art is one of the things I am definitely not good at. And so I was lucky to, yeah. Well, I was lucky to have Taylor help me out with that. And then also, while we're talking about shout outs, my friend Troy Swanson helped with some of the bigger projects. The like Dracula's coffin it's a very specialized coffin.
I'm kind of down to do one episode right after this and talk more about Dracula's Demise specifically.
Yeah, totally. Because
there's a lot to talk about. I think there's a lot.
It's a pretty cool game. They're all great, I think, but yeah, this one I kind of went overboard. I feel like it was just in a good way.
Yeah,
in a good way.
I think
went
so
overboard.
too. It's definitely my favorite, but Atlantis is definitely a close second because
Yeah.
really, really awesome too.
I think that there was one moment in Atlantis, and I think you guys might be able to remember, but it happened and my mind was blown away. It wasn't that like the puzzle itself was too challenging, but just the aha moment of I know exactly what's going on here really sealed the cake for me. I think that's why Atlantis is one of my favorite games of all time. But
now I'm interested in what puzzle that was or what
I'm kind of
part of the game that was.
Yeah. So
Wait, what?
the eye.
Oh, gotcha.
mhm.
The eye, gotcha.
That one, because that's a puzzle that I've been wanting to implement, and we just haven't found a good use for it. But you did it so flawlessly that I'm like, oh, okay, we're not doing that puzzle anymore.
You know what's funny
David
is
already did better.
that is not even the original plan, by the way. I'll have to tell you about that some other time. But that was, when you build an escape room, you have all these ideas. You're like, oh, if I could make this work and this work and this work and this work, and then when you actually go to do it, you're like, that is not gonna work, or
That's
either
impossible.
that's either impossible or it's not possible with like
It's not
it's somebody's gonna break it or it's just not gonna work.
I mean, I remember for King's Keep when we wanted to make the loaded dice in that room. We were trying to figure out how we could possibly always guarantee that they roll the same. And we went to our engineer friend and we were like, all right, what if we got a giant magnet?
That is so funny.
Barrel, and so that way when it's on, it's always gonna land because it's so strong. The dice always roll the same way. And then he came to me and was like, hey, you know that pacemakers are a thing, right? And you know that a really big magnet, you might not make them work anymore. It's like, oof.
I love how
maybe
Freddie
not.
thinks of those things.
Yeah, he
I
saves
never
our
would have thought
butts.
about pacemakers. We would have just killed somebody.
No, I don't think.
Who knows? Who knows?
I that's doubtful. I mean, you'd have to have a really big magnet for that. But it's funny. I have the same story. Like I was trying to make the same thing happen. You roll the dice, it always lands on the same number. And we've had this conversation because I thought you did it when I went in your room, and I was like, dang it, he figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
And then, I don't want to give anything away, but
I love that we both individually found our
own ways.
solutions. And
Yeah.
some are
To
really
an impossible
cool solutions.
challenge, but we both got him.
well, I figured out a way.
Yeah, I like your way. Yours is very creative too.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
And on
you.
that note, I think that we're gonna have to wrap it up for this episode.
All good.
Any other closing remarks? Any words?
Come play. I just want to say I'm super excited for all the new rooms that have opened up this past,
It's like a new
Month or two?
generation of escape rooms. Yeah, and like a few more months.
Yeah, I got to play the one at Real Escape. Fantastic. They did a great job with it, and they're all different, and they're all like not only different from each other, different from escape rooms around here. You know, like not like just all different.
Yeah.
Like theirs is the one in Real Escape. It's more of like a mystery that you're trying to solve. A mystery, like you know.
You have to like
And
figure out who the
their guys is a horror themed one, right? Which I mean, there was one in Escape, but yours is like was a full. Theirs was a little shorter, I think. I never got to play theirs, unfortunately.
Never got to play it. Yeah, it was a 30
Yeah,
room.
and then Dracula has all kinds of crazy stuff, which we'll talk about.
Yeah,
in the next episode.
I'm down to talk about it in.
Sorry, you guys got me talking.
No, it's all good. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk it out. But we'll be hopping on to the next Zoom chat right now to talk more about Dracula's demise.
Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or just want to chat or anything along those lines, you can email us at nextescapeshow@gmail.com.
That's nextescapeshow@gmail.com. Until then, I have been Calvin.
I am Kiara.
And
David.
all right, we got our names down. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.